Welcome to Southport, a cartoon series about the Tuxedo Crime Gang, a Gold Coast pool care business using pool maintenance as a front for a high-class gigolo service. But the crew at Tuxedo Pool Care aren't just cleaning pools and keeping bored housewives happy. They're robbing crooks, taxing scammers, and making shady con men pay their cut. Ever seen a woman blush when someone mentions the pool man? Well, these are the guys. Tuxedo Pool Care. They'll clean your pool, make your wife happy, and if you're making dirty money on the sly, they might just help you redeem yourself. Today's story is about a shady roof tiler named Brett, better known as Big. Big first came to the Tuxedo Crime Gang's attention at the Broad Beach Tavern. Max and Michaela were enjoying a sly lunch when something unusual caught their eye. This shady-looking man, Big, was running 2 poker machines at once. He'd load the machines with a couple of grand, then jam his key card into the spin button, leaving them running on maximum credits. But that wasn't all they noticed. More than once, dodgy-looking tradies walked up to Big and handed over documents. Big would reach into his Louis Vuitton bag and hand over wads of cash. Max and Michaela found this pretty interesting, to say the least, and decided to stick around. At about 4 o'clock, another shifty-looking tradie showed up, later identified as Dave. Most people knew him as Peanut. This one was different. He stuck close to Big, hovering just behind him like he worked for him. At one point, he even pulled a chair out for Big. You could tell this bloke wasn't just another punter, more like an assistant. He was also the one collecting the payout checks. He didn't cash them in. He just handed them straight to Big. Shortly after, Big and Peanut hopped into a van branded Vibe Roofing and drove off. Max and Michaela got up, headed out to their car, and followed the van. It led them to a mansion on Rio Vista Boulevard. Big hopped out empty-handed, no Louis Vuitton bag. The van drove off. They followed it to Storage King Southport. 5 minutes inside, then back on the move. Then it pulled into a house in Nerang. They watched Peanut get out of the van and walk straight into the house. No Louis Vuitton bag. Over the next couple of weeks, Max and Michaela kept dropping into the tavern. Same shady circus every time. Dodgy-looking tradies handing over documents. Big thrashing the pokies. Peanut arriving at 4 to drive Big home. Eventually, Max called a meeting, the usual spot, Southport Broadwater Parklands. Max laid it all out for the crew. Everyone agreed. Big was making plenty. It was time he paid tax. So the team went to work. The following Monday, just before 11, Brendan and Dominic walked into the Broad Beach Tavern for a beer. Right on cue, Big arrived with his Louis Vuitton bag. Brendan got talking to him at the bar. He told Big they used to drink at the Broad Beach Bowls Club, but lately there'd been too many cops around. Big said, "You're safe here, no cops." Over the next couple of weeks, Big, Brendan, and Dominic became bar buddies. Brendan told Big they cleaned pools. Big said his wife wasn't happy with their current pool cleaner. He also said his wife was never happy with anything. According to Big, that's what drove him to drink every day. Little by little, Big started showing them how things really worked. Before long, it was obvious what he was doing. Roof tilers were handing Big invoices. Big paid them cash, and every roof tiler loves cash, of course. Then Big ran the jobs through his own books, making his business look flat out. A few days later, the boys arrived at Big's house to do the pool. Big wasn't home, but his smoking hot wife Lee was. As soon as the boys walked through the side gate, Lee grabbed Brendan by the hand and dragged him inside. Half an hour later, Brendan leaned out an upstairs window screaming, "Dominic, you're on!" He flashed the old Gigolo special, the 2-finger tap-out signal. Dominic dropped everything and raced inside. The boys high-fived as Brendan clocked off and Dominic clocked on. Brendan headed back outside and finished the pool. As the boys drove away, Dominic looked genuinely rattled. After a minute, he shook his head and said, "Mate, I couldn't get the job done." Brendan laughed. "Don't worry about it. Big reckons nobody can make her happy. That's why he drinks every day." A few days later, Dominic was still rattled. The brothers came from a 100-year bloodline of legendary Gigolos. Their family name carried a lot of respect in the game. So Dominic told his twin brother Max about the woman he just couldn't satisfy. The next morning, Max booked an appointment with Dominic's barber, got the exact same haircut, put on a tuxedo shirt, and rode straight down to Lee's place, determined to restore the family honor. Unfortunately, Max was unable to satisfy Lee either. The situation deeply troubled the brothers. Meanwhile, Michaela and Julie kept a close eye on Peanut. One afternoon they followed him into Storage King, slipping in behind him as the gate opened so they could pinpoint exactly which shed was his. Soon after, they hired a shed of their own near Peanut's shed. Peanut's routine was clockwork. Drop Big at the tavern, spend the day between Storage King and a dozen houses, then pick Big up and head home. But Mondays were different. After dropping Big at the tavern, Peanut would head straight to Dark Eagle Express, an interstate transport company advertising Gold Coast to Adelaide. The group decided Sunday night would be the best time to clean out the storage shed. By then, the week's takings would have been collected and stashed away, ready to be sent back to Adelaide on Monday morning. The following Sunday, Michaela and Julie drove a van into Storage King. They parked it to block the security camera, then cut the padlock with a pair of bolt cutters and rolled up the door. Inside were around 50 20-liter plastic drums with airtight lids. Several sporting bags were stacked beside them. Working quickly, they loaded everything into the van. Before leaving, they fitted a new padlock to the door. The thinking was simple. There was no chance Big or Peanut would report the burglary of their illegal Aladdin's cave. Meanwhile, the rest of the crew waited at the group's own storage shed in Bundall. When the girls arrived, they backed the van up to the roller door, unloaded everything into the shed, and closed the roller door behind them. The crew started with the Louis Vuitton bag. Inside was $50,000 in cash and a concealed pistol. The sports bags contained an arsenal of weapons and ammunition. The barrels held everything from vintage wine and mobile phones to a money-counting machine, several hundred gold bars, loose cash, pounds of green and a pound of white. By the time the cash was counted and the green and gold bars were moved, the haul had topped $3.5 million. The following Monday, Brendan and Dominic went to the tavern as per usual. Big was already there. No Louis Vuitton bag, no smile. The boys grabbed a beer and sat beside him. Dominic asked, "What's up, Big?" "Peanut robbed me. I knew there was something shady about him all along." "Yeah," said Brendan, "me too." Big said, "You boys are straight shooters, loyal, trustworthy. I want you boys to work for me. Stick with me and you'll make a lot of cash." Dominic raised his beer. "You can trust us, Big." Big grabbed a coaster and drew a mud map on the back. "Sugar Mill Lane, Pimpama. About halfway up on the left there's a clearing. I want you boys to dig a hole, have it dug before midnight, and wait there for me." "No worries," said Brendan. The three of them sat drinking beers until about 4 o'clock. Then Brendan and Dominic dropped Big home. The boys got to Sugar Mill Lane just before dark and started digging. By the time they finished, the hole was deep enough. A little before midnight, Big arrived in Lee's black Audi SUV. The engine stopped, the tailgate lifted. There was a rolled-up carpet in the back with a couple of feet sticking out one end. Nobody said anything. Brendan helped Big drag the carpet out and carry it to the hole. They dropped it in. Big looked down. "It didn't have to be like this, Peanut." Then he spat into the hole. Dominic started shoveling. 20 minutes later it was done. Big opened an esky and pulled out 3 beers. The 3 men stood around drinking. Nobody mentioned Peanut again. A few weeks later, Brendan and Dominic found themselves back on Sugar Mill Lane digging another hole. This one was right beside Peanut. The Tuxedo Pool cleaning van was parked nearby. By the time they finished, the hole was deep enough. Brendan opened the rear doors of the van. Inside was a rolled-up carpet with a couple of feet sticking out one end. Neither of them said much. They didn't need to. Together they dragged it to the edge of the hole and pushed it in. Dominic picked up a shovel. Brendan looked down. It didn't have to be like this big. Then he spat into the hole. 20 minutes later it was done. The boys opened an esky and pulled out 2 beers. They stood there drinking in silence. Side by side beneath the dirt of Sugar Mill Lane lay Peanut and Big. They didn't stay alone for long. A few nights later the crew gathered at Brendan and Michaela's apartment to celebrate. They were drinking martinis and indulging in a white powder substance. What it was, we will not say. This is a cartoon. Brendan, Michaela, and Julie were playing Twister. Meanwhile, Dominic and Max were busy investigating a Broad Beach brothel called Desert Delights, famous for its beautiful Middle Eastern women and the fact you never quite knew what you were going to get. Then Lee walked through the front door. The twins looked at each other. "This is our chance," said Dominic. "For the family honor," said Max. They immediately escorted Lee into a bedroom and closed the door. Not long after, Brendan, Michaela, and Julie wandered in as well. 4 hours later, Lee finally emerged. The room fell silent. Lee smiled. "I have never felt so satisfied in all my life," she announced. "Thank you, Tuxedo Pool Care. You are the best." At last, Dominic and Max's family honor and the good reputation of Tuxedo Pool Care had been restored.
Please don't go down to dirty Southport. You lose your soul, dirty Southport. Shifty, dirty people. Dirty Southport.
You're a lazy husband, too busy to look after your pool? Well, stop waiting. I called Tuxedo Pool Care, and I've never looked back. Their professional team gave my pool all the attention it deserved. Asked about their 2-man premium package. Mention Lee sent you and received 20% discount. Tuxedo Pool Care. Satisfaction guaranteed.
Please don't go down to dirty Southport. You lose your soul, dirty Southport. Shifty, dirty people. Dirty Southport. Shifty, dirty people. Dirty Southport.